Welcome back, sporting fans, to another spectacular episode of the Paint the Wall podcast. I, of course, am your host, Steve, and I am joined this week by a man that once ran a mile completely underwater, but you all know him as Logan.
Yeah, it was actually much easier. The running was actually much easier because, water, and it's easier to do stuff underwater. It was the breathing that was hard, obviously.
Yeah, that's fair. It is, I feel like, much harder to do things underwater, though.
No, it's a common misconception.
Huh. Is it just when you're like half underwater and half above water?
Yeah, that's where it comes from.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
I guess that makes sense.
Yep.
Well, it was fun to watch, Not the struggling to breathe part wasn't as fun to watch, but you figured it out,
I did. Yeah, it was impressive, I thought.
Well,
I don't want to.
I really don't either.
Can we just call it here?
I really don't either. This is I almost feel like I'm looking forward to this one less than I was looking forward to the Galaxy one a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to it less because I was there.
Yeah.
So I got much more angry about it.
Yeah, the Galaxy one, we did lose the Galaxy one. We managed to hold on for a draw this time, but it happened in a second time.
Right.
It just is not fun. We, of course, are talking about our 3-3 draw with Portland. The one that we were up 3-0 with about 28 minutes left in the game or whatever.
Yeah, those people.
That's the one that we're talking about.
Yep.
So I guess starting from before the game, when we still had some hope towards this one, same lineup as last week, although Polito was on the bench. I wonder if we see him. We did. It didn't matter, but we did see him. So
yeah.
I will say one of the coolest things from this game really got me in a good mood. The announcer didn't write down his name because I was not smart enough to do that.
Okay.
But before the game, right before kickoff, he said, "We invite you to turn off the world and turn on the game." And I just love that,
That's
I really did. It really is a way to it's a thing that you can do. And, even in retrospect, even after the game, I was not in a good mood. Nobody was. And my wife came in and she said, "You don't seem like you're in a good mood." And I said, "That would be because I'm not. However, I do recognize this is just a game and it's not going to affect my entire life. I'm just currently upset." So I do think it's cool that, you can turn off the world, watch a game, get involved in that game. And even if it does upset you, it was still nice to be able to just focus on a soccer game for a couple hours,
Yeah, that is true.
Even with the ending not being how we wanted it. Still, it's nice. Yeah. It's nice that we have that. So
that's very fair.
All right, now back to upsetting stuff. What a game. What a game. What are your thoughts? I'm curious. You were there, so I'm curious how miserable your time was.
Yeah. Listen, it was the perfect tale of two halves. The first half was great, dominated every conceivable metric possible. Just looked tremendous in all phases of the game. Willie Agata was on fire. Our back four looked incredible. Davis was making some great stops. Rosero was making some great stops. Rosero getting another goal. Just everything about the match was perfect. And honestly, first 10 minutes of the second half were even great. And then Willie Agata stepped up to take a penalty that Eric Tommy earns. Awful penalty.
Yeah.
Hashtag just kick the ball.
Just run up and kick it. Anybody who listens to us with any amount of frequency has heard me say that a million times.
Yeah.
And what was even worse is 120 seconds later, we give up a penalty and we get to watch the Portland guy Vanders, I believe it was.
Vander, yeah.
Just ran up and kicked it and scored it. So it was like, see, just run up and kick it.
Yeah. I was sitting next to Chad Smith in the press box today, or at the game yesterday, and we were talking about why this trend started, and he was talking about the statistics are very clear that when you just step up and kick the ball, you will do much better than if you try to stutter step, juke, twirly, spin, chip it, whatever you try to do,
Yep.
just kick the ball.
And I understand the whole thought behind if you get the stutter step right, you can tell where the keeper's going.
Sure.
I understand that, but that doesn't matter
Right.
if you miss.
Right. That, yeah. And that is the big problem is he did that. He put it wide left. And then the world just seemed to crumble after that.
Yeah, immediately. Just
Yeah.
immediately.
We conceded 2 very quick goals. And then from there, 5 minutes later, Peter took out Willie Agata for Alan Polito. I understand why you would do that. I get it. But honestly, the more and more that I watch Alan Polito, the less and less I want to see him and the more I want Willie Agata. Agata plays, and I was talking about this as well, is that Agata plays with this this spirit in him that he is truly grateful to be on the pitch. He is truly grateful to have it just another day playing soccer. And honestly, he just wants to show that he can keep doing this and that he can play another game. And so he plays like he's fighting for his life on the pitch. He's just so passionate about doing well. Every time he's screaming for the ball, he wants the ball. He wants to do nothing but score. And Alan Polito just seems like the polar opposite. Polito just seems like he doesn't care. I just don't see any spirit out of him. And yeah, he's talented. Yeah, he's good. He's probably better than Willie Agata. But at the end of the day, I'd rather have Agata on the pitch, and maybe both of them. I mean, we've talked in the past about the 4-2-3-1. We can have both of them. But right now, I don't love what I see out of Alan Polito. I want Willie Agata to stay on. So, but unfortunately, Peter didn't share our same thoughts. And then 10 minutes later, Portland tied it up. Peter made a sub after that, taking out Memo for Vargas, which I know that you weren't super thrilled with the sub. At least that seemed to be your implication.
Yes, dumb. Very dumb sub.
I was less upset with that one. I understand that you want to chase the fourth goal. You want to go score. So I was fine with it. But it just didn't do enough. So
yeah. Well, I think there's 2 points there that I want to build off of.
Okay.
I'll start with the Agata stuff first.
Okay.
This is his 3rd straight game with at least 1 goal contribution.
Yep.
He had 2 in this game, 2, 4, so 5 total. 5 goal contributions.
That sounds right.
In these last 3 games.
I think that's correct.
I did put a note. Maybe we're getting 2022 Agata. Maybe that is the true Agata. I know we spent all of last year going, which one are we getting? It really looks like we're not getting that. That was the outlier. And I was always like, he was injured. He never got full time. We don't really know. I still went into this season believing I don't know that we got enough. He got enough chance to show which one is the true Agata. And I was hoping this year he would. This recent outburst from him has made me think that was true. He just didn't get a whole lot of opportunities last year to show it.
Right.
And that we are going to get 2022 Agata seems to be the real Agata.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, gimme.
Yeah.
Gimme as much as you want. I agree with your perspective of Polito as far as having him up front. I do think it really kind of makes me more excited and really want to try that 4-2-3-1 some more. Because I agree. I would rather have that spirit from Agata up front. I don't really care if we have that kind of spirit from a number 10 type position. In a number 10, I want the skill that Polito has.
Yeah.
So like if he doesn't have that, I got to score a passion. I don't care. If you're playing the number 10, I don't care. I want the skill there. That's what I want.
Yeah. That's fair.
So that to me, that makes that 4-2-3-1 really make sense. And I think that lineup could be pretty dangerous.
Yeah. Probably.
I don't hate the sub that we had there. I think the thought process, especially at that point, because it's 3-2. So now it's like we kind of really need to score another goal, bring on fresh legs. Having somebody with the talent level of Polito with fresh legs to come in, and that's valuable when he's performing.
Right.
But that I think that is valuable. Also, Agata was clearly in his own head after he missed the PK, and then immediately
Yeah.
they score 2 goals, and he even after the game you could tell like he was so in his head because he didn't convert that and felt like
Mhm.
now I've let him back in the game because instead of being up, we went from being up 4-0 to it being 3-2 in like 3 minutes.
Right. That's hard
So,
to not take that. It's
yeah.
and honestly, I'd be doing the exact same thing because that was such a momentum swing. And like you said, we went from 4-0 to 3-2, and it the 4-0 would have put the dagger in it. I mean, there's no way that they're coming back at that point.
Probably.
Probably.
With all the stuff we've seen this year, maybe they do, but
Yeah.
4-0 is a lot harder to come back from.
Right.
Um, you're right. Plus,
Mhm.
maybe we make some tactical changes that, in my opinion, should have already happened.
Right.
I think that. Well, I guess that kind of transitions into my next point. There, is that you and I have talked at nauseum, both on and off the podcast, about taking your foot off the gas and whether or not that's the right decision.
Mhm.
In my opinion, us not taking our foot off the gas this game is why we lost.
Mm.
Because they kept getting because we were still trying to attack up 3-0, up 3-1.
Mhm.
We're still trying to attack here, and they get counters, and their
Mhm.
wings were too fast for our wing backs because Davis and Leibold got cooked all night. They got
Um,
absolutely roasted all night, especially
I
Davis, frankly.
well, I don't think I agree with that. I saw you when you texted me that I didn't respond to it because I figured we'd have the convo here.
Sure.
Keep going though. We'll pick that up.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. So I don't know. To me, this really felt like this is what happens when you don't take your foot off the gas when you need to. Now, I do
Mhm.
understand your point, and I think there are times when you need to take your foot off the gas and times when you need to not do that.
Right.
So, in my opinion, when we're up 3-0 and we're going for that goal, what could have been that fourth goal, that's
Mhm.
where I agree. Don't take your foot up off the gas just because we're up 3-0, especially with the way the game was playing.
Right.
But then when we missed that penalty and that momentum kind of shifted and then they came down and immediately scored,
Mhm.
that's where we have to be like, okay, we foot off the gas, let's play defense right now.
Uh-huh.
And then especially when we give up that second goal 3 minutes, 2 minutes later, like that's where I had a problem with the Vargas in for Memo sub.
Well, just to be clear, the Vargas in for memo was after it was 3-3.
I understand, but
Okay.
my I guess it was right after. Right
Correct.
after the third goal, which
Uh-huh.
in my mind means that sub had already been established that it was going to happen prior to it being 3-3.
You're probably right. Vargas was standing there for about 5 minutes or so, if I had to guess.
Sure.
Um,
So that's where I have a problem with it is because when it was 3-2, Peter had made the decision to make an
mhm.
attacking sub
Right.
when we needed a defensive sub.
Right.
And then now if it had been a little different, if they had tied it and Peter was like, shit, go. Like
Mhm.
now we have to score. We cannot do this again and tie this. Let's shift back into attack. I'm more okay with it than I would I would be right on the border of saying that I think that's the right move.
Mhm.
At least a little part of me is probably still like the momentum's not on our side. It's going to be so hard for us to flip that back and get a goal.
Right.
Um, but the fact that it felt like he made that decision when it was still 3-2, that's why I
Mhm.
have a problem with it because,
Okay.
at this point, our momentum is completely gone and they're
Mhm.
just all the momentum is on their side. They're attacking, they're pushing hard. At this point, it's like if we continue to attack, all we're doing is giving them an advantage on a break, which
Yeah.
is what happened, and they scored.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't know. To me, it feels like I don't want to see Vargas right there. I want to see more of a defensive sub. But at the same time, who?
Right.
You look at our bench, like
Right.
who? Well, who are we going to bring in besides Vargas there? So
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Because I mean, the problem is that we don't really have defensive options.
Mm-hmm.
We had Fontas on the bench, which I would have been happy to see Fontas, but
Yeah.
Peter's never going to touch his center backs. And honestly, I don't know if I would want him touching center backs. Um, Center backs are such a hard thing to sub out in the middle of a game. They require
Mm-hmm.
so much cohesion and playing together.
I agree.
So we probably don't want to touch the center backs. That being said, I agree with you that Leibold is getting cooked all night.
Mhm.
Leibold easily, I mean, Fontas easily could have come on for Leibold, or we have a left back sitting back there in Basong.
Mhm.
The impression that I got from talking with a couple guys, though, is that Peter was very unimpressed with Basong in his first match and has been unimpressed with him up to this point in practice.
Interesting. Okay.
So it seems very unlikely we're going to see any of Basong.
Okay.
And then after that, I guess we have Caden Pierre, but he hasn't seen the pitch in a year.
Yeah, no, so unproven.
Yeah. And with how, I mean, I think we can both agree that Caden Pierre is not talented, and not as talented as Jake Davis.
Mhm.
He's just fast as heck. So
Mhm.
he can move and, he can catch up for his mistakes.
Mhm.
So it's like, what options does Peter have on that defensive side?
Yeah.
Which again comes back to the beginning of the season when we said, or in the off season when we said we have to get a center back. We
Mhm.
need more defensive options.
Yeah,
We
I
need
agree.
somebody who can play all four of those positions on the back line.
Yep. And
So,
it could still be Fontas, like he looked good at the beginning of the season.
yeah.
So we've talked about that before this season, how we could be back to
Hmm.
the Fontas that got robbed of defensive player of the year a couple of years ago.
Right.
He's just injured. So like,
Hmm.
and I know he's back on the bench or back on the
Hmm.
bench and I think he's healthy.
Yeah.
Of course, Peter's version of, his whole 90 fit thing is
Yeah.
maybe he's not quite there yet, and you're right, subbing out a center back in the middle of the game is hard.
Hmm.
Um, maybe they do, sub him for Leibold and push
Right.
Volder over to the wing because Volder's played the wing before.
Hmm.
I just think, I don't know. To me, subbing in Vargas there, especially Vargas, because he incredibly talented. He almost scored like twice this game again.
Right. He did.
He just was going up against a defender who clearly watched his film from last
Right.
and was ready for it. But
Hmm.
um, he's just such an attacking piece. He's not a defender. He's an attacking option.
Yeah.
So like, why not make that sub for somebody like Felipe? I know. I preach about Felipe all the time, but it's like
Well,
he at
honestly,
least can play defense.
though, he's still just as much a offensive minded as Vargas is.
Yeah, true. Really, he's just a midfielder, so he's got at least a little bit of defense in him.
Yeah, that's fair.
He could play more of a
Hmm.
10, I guess, where he can play a little bit of defense. But it's
Yeah.
like Vargas, I mean, he was back on defense, but he didn't do anything. He
Right.
was really just a body.
Hmm.
But I don't know.
No.
That game was
I,
tough. I think Leibold kept getting cooked. Even Leibold and Tommy double teaming.
Mhm.
I can't think of it. Anthony.
Anthony.
Just oh god. It looked like we were scrimmaging against UMKC's soccer team all of a sudden,
Yeah.
we were UMKC's soccer team
Right.
and we were
Mhm.
playing some professional team and their
Yeah.
winger was just all around us,
That Anthony, he looks. He's young. He's only 22,
Right.
and he's gonna be really good.
Absolutely.
He's gonna be a
Incredibly
special talent.
talented for sure, but
Yeah.
even I mean, I know you and I disagree, or you said we disagreed on Jake Davis.
Hmm.
Um, he was very, I would say, hot and cold this game to me.
Well, and I agree with you there, but I think where my opinion differs is that whereas Jake Davis makes mistakes, Jake Davis has the soccer IQ, which is why he's done so well in this position, to know
Mhm.
when he can make those mistakes and when he can recover from those mistakes. Because honestly, there weren't any mistakes that he made. There weren't any times he got burned that he didn't recover. All the
Yeah.
goals
Well,
came either
that's
through the
not
center
that's
or through Leibold.
no the one that the tap in goal, which was I think the third goal. Yeah, Eric.
Okay.
Nope, it was the second goal because the third goal was the header deflection shot. That was the
Right.
third goal.
Okay.
The second goal came from Jonathan Rodriguez crossed it and it went right past, and then and then the guy just tapped it in.
Okay. That's fair. Okay.
Felipe Mora, he scored
Mhm.
the second goal. That one came from, and in all honesty, I guess my point to your point, you're mostly right. I would say Davis does have that IQ, and I think we even both said it last week. Like when he does get burned, he is able to recover probably 90% of the time.
True.
I think this was an example of he was playing against somebody with a very high level of talent in Jonathan Rodriguez there on the left,
Right.
who was also having a really good game
Mm-hmm.
and was clearly feeling it. So
Well,
he got beat and he was able to recover most of the time. That one time he didn't recover, he got beat and he put a cross in and
that's
goal.
fair.
I think that was a good example of he was playing somebody much older than him who has more experience, and
Well, and
he
honestly,
got and wasn't able to recover every time. It
it
happens,
it
but
wasn't even just Rodriguez, because he had, I mean, honestly, he had Anthony Pickett on him, he had Evander, he took
yeah, true,
Moreno, he had so much going on.
true.
So they were picking on him, which maybe they saw something that they liked. Which I mean, I don't know. I'd pick on Leibold if I were them, but um,
Same.
they just really loved that left wing, and
It
they
might have been the number next to his name that depicts his
sorry,
age.
yeah, it may have been.
That might have, it just
Mhm.
and that's not. I mean, that's gonna happen. I mean, Jonathan Rodriguez is 30. Like he has
Right,
been around and he's
right,
good.
hmm
So he's going to be like, I can probably teach this 21-year-old kid a thing or two. And
right,
honestly, he's 100% right.
hmm
But Jake was able to stick with him or recover
hmm
95% of the time. Just the
yeah,
5% of the time he wasn't able to, one of them led to a goal.
yeah,
And a crucial goal because that
hmm
really shifted that momentum. And,
it did.
it was unfortunate. Again, it happens.
hmm
It's not like this is going to be Jake the entire season.
Right.
Whereas it's apparently going to be Leibold the whole season. Um,
Yeah, and defenders get a rough draw because I mean, if you succeed 99% of the time, that's a bad game.
yeah,
If you concede one goal and it's your fault, that's a bad game.
yeah, 100%.
It's pretty tough to be a defender in soccer.
Yeah,
There's not a lot right you can do that can outweigh the bads.
yeah.
So, um, well, I think we've talked enough about the game. Before we get to MVP and MVP, I have one thing I want to talk about. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Let me just brief over my notes really quick and make sure
Okay.
there's nothing. It's mostly just about the game. I did put 10 minutes of stoppage time, which guarantees we won't score.
Yeah.
Um, was right there.
Yeah.
I did have a problem with our free kick that we got in stoppage time.
Okay.
Really great ball played in by Voltaire,
Agreed.
combined with Portland doesn't even remotely try to mark anyone.
No.
Um,
No.
and
There
yet
was
we still have nobody on the back post, and we
right.
can't even get a shot on target.
Right.
Like that one was, truthfully, that may have been the most irritating point of the match for me because I'm like, okay, we get a free kick. Now's our chance. Voltaire puts a perfect ball in, and Portland completely ignores it.
Yeah.
And yet we still have nobody there to even get a shot off, let alone put it in the net. But
in my opinion, I think it's really unfortunate because it looks like the team let him down based on where everybody was running on that play. I think it was Voltaire who put the ball in the wrong spot.
okay, that I could totally see that.
Yeah.
That
It's
he,
really
even
unfortunate.
it looks like a good, which it was. It was a great ball. It
Right.
just seems like he went with, for lack of a better, I mean, this isn't what happened, but he went with play number B or letter
Right.
B, and they went with A,
Right.
and it just didn't line, which
Well,
is annoying, but still,
yeah.
I just, oh gosh, so close,
And
so close to
honestly,
us
like
winning that game.
you say the B, plan B, whatever, like that's not that far off because typically there's from what I understand, because I mean teams change their tactics all the time.
Mhm.
But most teams have 4 set codes that they go with.
Sure,
That is usually just a combination of which arm is in the air.
you're right,
That is just which plan that they're going with for this play. So
100%, yeah.
you're probably not that far off.
And it was clearly back post. It was just he meant to put it
Front post.
outside the 6 yard instead of inside the 6 yard. And Tommy, I think, was the main one that was close, was
Yeah.
about 3 yards too short to be able to put a foot on it.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that we get such a wide open chance to steal a win in a game that we should never have had to steal a win.
Right.
And it would just miss it.
I agree.
And then right at the very end of the game, we have a breakaway chance. And Radoya instead decides to pull up, turn around, pass the ball backwards,
Correct.
and the ref says, okay, blows the whistle, game over. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why would we not advance that forward? Even if it gets picked off, who cares? The whistle's going to blow as soon as they pick it off.
Right.
But why would you stop and turn around and pass it to Melia?
I don't know.
That makes no sense to me.
It's Peter's European German style of football.
Yeah, I guess, but like you got to know, especially now. This clock keeps going, and I understand only the center official knows. But if they call 10 minutes and you look up and it says 101 on the clock, you're like, okay, this is probably pretty close to it. I should probably push this towards the goal we're attacking. But no, Melia, one last touch. Yeah. Anyway, yes, go ahead. What was your thing?
Last point. Well, not point. Question. So Fontas has been on the bench for a few games now.
Okay.
Do you think Volodare has won the spot?
No.
Why not?
Because let's see. Has he played 2 games?
3 games. Well, okay. Volodare has played 4 games. Fontas was, I know, available for 2 for sure. I feel like he was available for a 3rd as well. But I could be wrong there.
Okay. Stand by real quick. I am just trying to look and see if I can find when the last game. I think it was this San Jose game. Nope, Volodare started there too. So San Jose was the first game I believe that he started. Let me just double check this one. LAFC 0-0 draw was Fontas. Yeah, so LAFC 0-0 draw was the last time Fontas played.
Okay.
So in Leibold's starts, we have beat San Jose by 1, had a catastrophic failure at home where LA Galaxy came back and won. We then crushed Toronto. And then we had another catastrophic failure at home where Portland came back and won.
Okay.
So of the 4 games, 2 of them were catastrophic multi-goal failures at home.
Okay.
That alone would be the reason why I go back to Fontas.
But how many times, I mean, has Volodare had a terrible game in any of those? Can you point in any of those and say Volodare was the reason we lost that game?
No, I can't. But I don't think.
And how many times last year did we say Fontas was the reason we lost games?
True. But we haven't this year.
Correct.
We haven't said that about Fontas this year.
Yeah, out of 2 games.
2,
Here's
3,
my
4,
thought.
out of 4 games.
Here's my thought. Well, no, he only played against. I didn't scroll up far enough. 3 games.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I saw Houston 1-0, and that was the playoffs last year. I forgot we also played Houston in the first game. So you're right, 3.
Yeah.
But we gave up 2 goals in those 3 games.
Yep.
But
again, I don't think any of that is Volodare's fault.
8 goals in the 4 since then.
Right, but at no point have we been picking on Volodare. Like we've talked about Tim Leibold a lot, and we've talked about Rosero a lot. We've talked about in good ways with Rosero. I don't think at any point we've talked bad about Volodare. Obviously, he's made mistakes. He's done some silly things. He had some moments in yesterday's game. But in my opinion, I think Volodare gives us what we get all of the good stuff with Fontas. We get the athletical talent, his positioning, his soccer IQ. We get the speed of Volodare, and we get him 10 years younger. Obviously, he's not Fontas. He's not there yet. Fontas is a better soccer player, but he is a lot younger, and he's playing well enough to keep the spot. He's never at any point done anything that's made me say he shouldn't have it.
I agree.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Fontas can run out of contract at the end of this year.
Sure. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't factor that into this year at all.
I would, 100%. If you have a young guy who's playing pretty much as well as Fontas, and you've got a guy who's 10 years younger, I would 100%.
So my thing is, you're right. In the last 4 games, I don't know that we have a reason to point our finger at Volodare. In the first 3 games, we didn't have a reason to point our finger at Fontas in any of those they were all draws. But either way, we never had to point our finger at Fontas and be like, really? So to me, that point washes.
I don't think it does though, because
Well,
again, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, to me, that point just washes because we don't have a reason to point at either of them.
Okay.
Last year we had a lot of reasons to point at Fontas.
Mm-hmm.
We also had a lot of reasons to point at Volader when he did play last year.
That's fair.
Last year Volader was not this Volader that we have this year. He made several mistakes last year, where we were like, it seems like Volader's our only other option, but is he any better? Not really.
Yeah.
That was why you and I were so adamant about we need to sign a center back in the offseason because all we have is Volader and Castellanos, neither of which are a good option.
Right.
I will say Volader has proved us wrong there. So in my opinion, the only thing that really separates the two is their age, which I agree with your point. But I think it's a two-pointed thing. Volader is younger, but Fontas has more experience. And we know what Fontas did a couple years ago when he got robbed of Defensive Player of the Year.
Right.
So if there's a chance we get that Fontas back, hell yeah, for sure. He's also about 40 pounds heavier, which he's still fit, though. He's not like, a tub of goo out there. I'm saying like he's heavier, so he's harder to move off a ball. That's important to me in a center back. Okay. They're only an inch apart in height, so whatever. But I think the main reason I say no and that I would probably expect to see Fontas back is simply just because our form has been horrible the last 4 games, especially 2 of the 3 where we collapsed against LA Galaxy and Portland. So it's like, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. Something has to change on the defense to make a point, if for no other reason. We got to make a point and be like, we got to fix something. We don't have another right back and we don't have another left back. All we have is another center back who can make a difference. So in my mind, put Fontas back in there and use Volader as a sub kind of thing if we have to.
Okay.
I guess that's my thought. And I would say I do like the wisdom and the experience that comes with the older player. And if he is, let him keep, let Volader keep leaning on him. We still give him some playing time this year, so that way next year he's our guy, and we can let Fonty go.
Okay.
So I guess that would be my full answer there.
All right. Here's my counterpoints. First of all, talking about the age the youth versus the experience. Experience on a team can be impactful whether they're on the field or not.
True. That's true.
Youth can only be impactful on the field.
True. Yeah.
And you are right. Volader has looked fine. He's not had any issues. We've not had to say his name. And you're right. Same with Fontas. The problem is Fontas is 10 years too old. So it's not a matter of it's Fontas' job to lose. I think it's Volader's job to lose. As long as he's playing well enough, we go with the youth. Because the time when you go, I want to go with the experienced guy over the young guy is when the young guy's just not quite hacking it yet. Okay. If you've got a young guy doing well enough that he can fill the role and do it well, then great. You take the youth, you take the guy who's younger, who's got a step, who's a little bit quicker, who you've got 10 more years out of him. Okay. Hopefully he doesn't go off and go to Germany or whatever, which probably will. And the last thing is, you're right. We've been in, I wouldn't say terrible form, especially not compared to the first 3 games, because in the first 3 games we got 2 points. In the last 4 games we've gotten 7 points. So we're winning soccer games now, versus the first 3 games in which we couldn't score more than 1 goal and we were tying all of our games.
That's true.
We are scoring, and I don't think our defensive collapses have anything to do with our players. That's not true. I think I know what you're saying when you say that coaching doesn't only gets you so far. But these players are good enough where with the right coaching, with the right formations, with the right instructions, with the right direction, they can win soccer games. They can not lose or not tie a game up 3-0. I don't think this is a players are doing anything wrong. I think this is just the game started falling apart and Peter didn't do enough to stop it. So I understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, I think if Valdir is doing well enough to earn the spot, I think he should get the spot. It is harsh. I mean, it sucks because he's a guy that we've had on the team for a long time. And you're right. If we can get 2 years Go Fontas, then that's great. But the problem is if we have 1 year Go Fontas to look at and go, okay, we can't let that happen again.
Yeah,
And
but
so,
again, 1 year ago, Valadair was the exact same. We didn't want him
right.
either.
But Valadair is showing signs of improvement, which again, it's that harsh mentality of if the young guy's doing well enough, the young guy's usually going to get the nod over the older guy. Usually,
True.
obviously, that's not always the case.
Not at our club either.
Well, that's also true.
I got to factor in we're in Kansas City, we're not in LA or Real or Houston. That logic doesn't apply here.
That's true.
But yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. I'm not going to delve too much into the how much of an effect coaching has on things. We've talked about it before, and we're already at a long episode, so we don't need to dive into it too much. Although this is a prime example of could be either way, I guess. I don't know. I will say, I know in the post game stuff, Peter said that they made adjustments at halftime, and the players didn't do it. The players did the opposite.
Yeah.
So
that is what Peter said.
My guess would be they made some sort of adjustment for how to tactically help them with the fact that they were getting cooked on both wings. In particular, Leibold. That would be my guess. So that is, to your point, that is Peter, the coach, making a tactical change. And then the players and we end up drawing this game. I almost said losing, which again, I might as well, if I get we get a point that could in the long term end up mattering, but you go in the locker room and tell any of those players, well, at least you didn't lose, they'll kick you out pretty promptly.
Right.
So, but my point is he did make a coaching tactical change at halftime, and the players did not execute, and we blew that game. So to me, that answers that for me, that that's exactly what you were saying, is that these players should have the level and the capability and the skill level that coaching can matter. Not if they don't do it. If they don't go out and execute, Peter's not the one on the field executing his tactical plans. So if he puts in a tactical plan and they don't do it, it doesn't matter.
I agree with you. I understand what you're saying. But to my point, if that's true, then why is Peter not just sit down and watch the game?
Because that's just not who Peter is.
Right, but he's chirping, he's giving instructions, he's telling players what to do. He's constantly coaching the entire game. Because what you're doing during the game still matters. Those adjustments that you're making during the game still matters.
If the players do it.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. What you're saying, though, maybe you're not meaning to say this, what you're implying to me right now is that in-game adjustments don't matter. That coaching doesn't matter once the game starts.
No, I'm saying that coaching only matters if the players do it.
Correct. That is right.
He made tactical adjustments at halftime. Of course, this is what Peter said. We were in the locker room. We don't know. But he made tactical adjustments at halftime. And you're right. He's always on the sideline chirping and yelling and screaming at players. You can hear him yell, Jake, in the, just as one example. Daniel. You can hear it all the time on TV. If they're not listening and they're not doing what he's telling them to do, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good your coach is if your players don't execute.
Sure. I suppose that is correct. You are not wrong. My point is that we've had this going on long enough where we get all these questionable coaching things and all these questionable tactics that come out that it can no longer be the players just aren't executing, because we've had so many players come and go and it's always been the same problems over and over. It's always just Peter questionable tactical decisions and subs never happening and us not playing defensively or us playing too defensively. And it's always Peter is not making those executions and not making those coaching decisions If it was a player problem, it would have worked itself out because since the time you and I have been following the club, basically every player has been recycled by this point.
Well, yeah, that's just the nature of the game, though.
Right. That's my point.
So
If
are
it
you
was a
saying?
player problem, then it would have worked itself out. We would have seen improvement. But it's been the same exact problem for years.
Okay, yeah, but so are you saying that this game would be the outlier?
No, I'm saying this game I don't take this game into account because again, we have what Peter said. He said that they made tactical adjustments. We have
Mm-hmm.
no idea what those tactical adjustments were. We have no idea if his tactical adjustments would have been any better. This game just doesn't matter because the players just didn't do what he was supposed to do or what he told them to do. My point is that even when they do what he's saying that they do, which we have to assume that happens because this is the first time I've ever heard him made that comment,
Mm-hmm.
even after dropping points, when they do what he tells them to do, they're still blowing games and they're still losing from winning positions way more often than it should happen.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I think that what that really comes down to is a lack of knowledge that you and I and any fan is not going to have, simply because you're right.
Right.
This is the first time that Peter has come out and said, we made adjustments at halftime. They just didn't do it.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that didn't happen in the Galaxy game. He just
Yeah.
didn't say it. But we'll never know that because you're right.
Right.
Most of the time, he's not going to come out and say,
Mhm.
we made adjustments. They didn't listen. He's not going to
Right.
do that. Now, in my literal personal opinion, I have nothing to back this up just from the way that I have interacted with humans in general.
Mhm.
He doesn't come out and say that the first time it happens. He's not going to
Okay.
come out and say, we
Mhm.
made adjustments at halftime and they didn't listen the
Mhm.
very first time it happens. That's just my personal opinion. So, in
Probably.
my opinion, this has happened before. It just now finally got to the point where he's like, you know what? Like,
Mhm.
this is what happens when you don't listen to me. I've been trying to tell you guys this forever. It just happened 2 games ago against LA Galaxy. Yeah, we beat a pretty bad Portland team at home with no attack. Yeah, we managed to get that one, and then we come back home and play another good team. Toronto, sorry, we just played Portland.
Right.
And then it happens again. So, just in my opinion, dealing with, and obviously you and I have dealt with people in very different ways of, life.
Mhm.
But just in my opinion, I think you don't come out and say that in a presser if it's the very first time it's happened.
No, I agree with you. That's probably true. I
So,
just think that if it was players not executing, if Peter's been great all along, if Peter's been a fantastic coach all along, and it's just players not executing,
mhm,
that would have worked itself out because we've recycled enough players where we have basically a whole new batch of players in the last 5 years.
yeah,
So that problem would have worked itself out.
unless we're
Um,
just still bringing in players that don't listen, which
Probably.
that's another problem that would be on the sporting director, which just so happens to also be Peter.
There you go.
Um, but so I get that, but I'm just saying that is separate than coaching. That could just be
Mhm.
player acquisition is our problem.
Maybe
Um,
it's
but
possible.
I, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And again, I don't think we ever will because we're not in the locker room at halftime.
Right.
We're not in the locker room in general. We're not in practice. We're not
Yeah.
there to see all these things. And we probably
No,
never will. We're never going to know the true answer.
you are right, but isn't everything we're doing here speculation?
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
That's the joys of it.
Right.
But I'm just saying, we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
we can both, try, we can throw out theories, and yeah, some of them prove to be true. I'm
Mhm.
just saying from my perspective, I don't think you come out and say that if it's the first time it's ever happened.
Right.
So that tells me that our team has a problem with not
Mhm.
making the tactical adjustments that Peter is putting into play,
Mhm.
which it just leans itself towards like, yeah, I mean, the coach can only coach so much before the players don't do it.
No, I completely
So
agree with what you're saying there. I don't necessarily agree that, it might be a problem. I don't see enough signs of that. But
sure.
I also understand what you're saying. It's probably not the first time it's happened if Peter's saying it now.
Hmm.
Um, but uh crazy tangent. This episode has already gone way long enough, and we're not
Yeah, I
even
agree.
to the first segment yet.
I
But
agree.
absolute last thing I'm gonna say, I promise, before we move on. Sporting is currently sitting on 10 points in seventh place. We have dropped 9 points from winning positions. We
Mhm.
would be 6 points clear of first place in the West right now.
Yep.
And 5 points place clear of the Supporters Shield standings if we don't drop all those points. So,
yep. Which also subsequently proves what Cavincio always says, and that's that the season doesn't matter till September. So,
well, that's not true.
Nothing matters till September. So.
Not true. Points dropped are points dropped.
True, but we're only 3 points off of
because
place,
when D-Day comes here and we need a win to make the playoffs, we could have won a game at any point throughout the season and made the playoffs instead. So
true, that's true.
Every game matters. I hate that mentality of nothing matters until September. I cannot stand it.
True. All right. Well, who's your MVP in this shit show of a game?
It has to be Willie Agata.
Does it have to be?
It has to be Willie Agata. It can't be anybody else. A brace does not. I mean, yeah, he put up an awful penalty kick and, kind of turned the tide of the game and, single-handedly cost us the game. That's an exaggeration. But it has to be Willie Agata. A brace, he played so well. He was all over the pitch. I think it has to be Willie Agata.
Sure. I put that it should be Willie for all those exact same answers. But when I typed this, I was mad at him. So he doesn't get it for me. I'm giving it to Eric Tommy because he kept trying.
That's
he
hurtful.
Seemed to be one of the only ones that just kept trying.
Yeah.
So there you go. But you're right. It's got to go to Willie,
Yeah. Main team of the match day.
True. Yeah, true. MVP.
Tim Leibold. I know who you're going to take, but Tim Leibold.
I put Davis and Leibold.
Yeah,
but in my opinion, it could also just be the whole back line simply because you give up 3 goals when you're up 3-0. Just give it to the whole back line and move on,
fair.
Yeah, I think Leibold over Davis probably a little, but I don't know. They both got cooked.
That's fair.
All right. Well, that wraps up this game. And let's move on because we're already at 47 minutes. So
whoops.
Let's try to wrap this. I legitimately thought this would be a short episode because we didn't want to talk about it. So
I thought the whole episode would be 47 minutes.
We'll move on to our new segment this year, Current Corner, which is a short one because they didn't play. So
yeah,
thanks for going on that venture with us. Next week they play Gotham FC on the 14th, but an off week. But still undefeated. Let's go.
Ooh, let's go.
Best of the rest, take us around the league quickly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we had opening up the weekend. We had Cincinnati and New York Red Bulls. Red Bulls getting the win 2-1. They are jumping to the top of the East and top of the Supporters Shield standings. Miami and Colorado playing to a 2-2 draw. Colorado good? Question mark.
I think that's not a question mark anymore.
Yeah, apparently not. New England Revolution getting the win against Charlotte FC. New England getting their first win of the year. Vancouver putting yet another beating down on Toronto. Vancouver jumping up to first place in the West with a 4-0 win over Toronto against their Canadian
4-1-1
rivals. One of the best rivalries in U.S. soccer, El Tráfico. We had LAFC getting the win 2-1 against LA Galaxy. Austin and San Jose. Austin getting the win 4-3 there. Spectacular game. I have a feeling we'll be talking about again in just a minute. Chicago and Houston. Chicago getting the win 2-1 there. Minnesota and RSL playing to a 1-1 draw. St. Louis and Dallas playing to a 0-0 draw. Seattle, confirmed listeners of the podcast, putting a beat down on Montreal 5-0 to close out Saturday, and then that's it.
Awesome. I hope they're listeners because I hate you, Seattle.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Always.
Very quickly, while we're going best of the rest, before we get over to good, bad, and ugly, of course, hit us up on Twitter, PTW_pod, Facebook, Paint the Wall Podcast. That's the same as our Gmail, paintthewallpodcast@gmail.com. And on YouTube now, unless you're already watching, at which you do need, PTW_pod. Like and subscribe over there. That would help us out because then more people can see it. And then, well, that's just good for everybody.
Yep.
Logan, hit me with your good.
My good. Listen, spoilers for the Austin San Jose game, which I already spoiled. But if you haven't watched the game already, pause this right now. Go over to your little Apple TV app, go to the MLS Season Pass, go back to Saturday and watch the game and then come back and listen to us.
We can give them a minute. That's fine.
Yep. Okay, now that you've done that, Austin, San Jose, what a spectacular game. San Jose goes up 2-0. Austin comes back, clawing back up, makes it 2-2, and then takes the 3-2 win. Their fans are going nuts. The Verde, I believe they're called.
Yeah.
Then San Jose comes back and makes it 3-3. And then in the 101st minute, Driussi, with the absolute last kick of the game, blasts
What a goal.
what a goal.
Oh,
Blast it home to put home the winner. 4-3 is the final. What a game. Such a good game. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Seriously, it's
he's
so
like
good.
he's like Rui Diaz for me.
Yeah.
I love watching him play, and I just hate that he plays for another team. Fortunately, he doesn't play for Seattle, so that made it a lot worse. At least I don't hate Austin. So like,
Yeah.
oh man, he's fun to watch.
Yeah. Fair enough.
All right, my good. We're gonna go across the pond. Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna go to my favorite country that I've never been to.
Okay.
England. Wait, no, they play in Wales, which is a different country.
I don't know what we're talking about yet, so
I know you don't. But I said England, and then I was like, wait a minute. It's not. It's English Premier League technically, but they're not in the Premier League. We're gonna go to Wrexham. Everyone knows what that is.
Except they're not in the English Premier League, but that's okay. Continue.
Well, they're in the pyramid, is what I meant. Like I was thinking, they're working towards EPL. That's where I got England. Anyway,
it's called the English Football Pyramid.
Right. Which, whatever. We're going to Wrexham. Paul Mullins scores his 100th goal for Wrexham in their 2-1 victory over Colchester United. Good work, Paul Mullins. You know, I just think probably anybody who listens to this probably likes Wrexham because the documentary is just so much fun.
Sure.
And everybody likes Wrexham. Also, Wrexham are currently sitting in second. They are 4 points off of first place with 4 games left.
Right.
They are 2 points ahead of third place, which is the last guaranteed promotion spot. And they are 3 points ahead of fourth place, which is the first spot in the tournament to determine promotion, because there are 4 teams that get promoted. So they are currently sitting in a promotion eligible spot with 4 games left. So my good goes to that. Everything I just said, but mostly the Paul Mullins and his 100th goal. Good for you. You know, congrats.
Good for him. Congrats.
Go ahead. Hit me with your bad.
My bad is going to go to, unfortunately, confirmed listeners of the podcast, because you and I both hate them. But Seattle putting the beat down on Montreal 5-0. That's a bad performance for Montreal, and a Montreal team that like hasn't looked terrible up to this point.
No,
like they're not great. They're sitting in 11th in the East right now.
Sure,
but they're not that bad looking.
No.
But just getting beat down. So yeah, that's my bad.
By a previously struggling Seattle team in their first win at that too. So impressive. I will jump to it and just let you know that was also my ugly.
Oh, okay.
So,
sure.
My ugly is Montreal losing to Seattle 5-0. So
okay. All right.
Everything you just said, I agree.
Okay.
Except for ugly. In my mind, you don't blow a 3-0 lead at home and have it not be the bad of the week. I know we try not to give it to Sporting. We try to keep this segment not Sporting, but like when it's that bad, no, you're the bad.
Right. Yeah.
Blowing a 3-0 lead at home again. The first one was 2, but still.
Yeah.
Ugh. That's my bad.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right, hit me with your ugly.
My ugly goes to a performance that was so bad, despite me so badly not wanting to talk about it again. I had no choice. Us. It has to be us.
Yeah. Okay. I kind of figured we were probably gonna flip-flop those, but
yeah,
I agree. Well, I don't want to talk about it anymore. So next week is a big one.
It is.
Maybe. Well, we'll see. But at least on paper is a big one, because we are going back to our roots, and we are playing from Arrowhead Stadium, which, if you are listening to this and don't know what Arrowhead is, I can't help you. You know, I can't. You probably live in Kansas City. How do you not know what Arrowhead is?
Hopefully soon to be former home of the Kansas City Chiefs. Sorry, Houston Chiefs.
Wow.
Dallas Chiefs, what is it?
That'll literally never happen in a million years. They will never leave Kansas City. The Royals might, but no, the Chiefs won't leave. They'll go to Kansas, but that could happen. But Arrowhead, home of the 2-time back-to-back world champion Chiefs, soon to be 3-time world champion in a row.
Just get out of my county. That's all I care about.
Yeah, right. We are playing Miami, and Messi, if he isn't too tired and feels like taking a little plane ride to Kansas City. Maybe he'll show up.
Maybe.
He does what he wants.
Yeah.
My only comment is, who knows if Messi will play. I'm sure he'll need a nap after the Wednesday game if he also feels like getting on a plane and going to play a little midweek game.
Right.
Who knows? He makes his own rules.
It is unfortunate that not only is he playing a midweek game, it is also in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that doesn't bode well.
Yeah. Since I am not going to this game either, I personally hope he does not show up because A, it would be hilarious, and B, I don't want to play Messi. Why would I? It's bad enough we got to play Luis Suarez right now.
Yeah. But I do want to see Messi, so I'm really hoping he's there.
It would be cool to see. And I hope you get to see him sit on the bench and watch Miami. I hope that he at least makes the trip and you get to see him with your eyes, not play, but be there. But I don't want to deal with Messi and Suarez. Suarez is insane right now.
Suarez is playing out of his mind.
He's just showing why even washed up Premier League players are at a very different level than the MLS.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's what we got. What do you think it happens?
So before I get into score predictions, I want to propose something we've never done before.
Okay.
I want us to make 2 score predictions.
Okay.
One if Messi plays and one if he does not.
Okay.
It's going to be very different for me. It might be this exact same for you.
Okay.
But I just think it makes such a massive impact on the game, and we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. Okay. I think we should be allowed the difference.
Sure. If you feel you need that, you go right ahead.
Oh, he's so sly about it. He sets the escape route even if he loses. I think if Messi plays, I think it's going to be a 70th minute substitution. I do not think he's going to play considerable time. I do think he's going to come on. He's going to score a goal in those 20 minutes because that's 19 more minutes than what he needs to score a goal at this level. He is going to go running at Tim Leibold. He's going to look at Tim Leibold. Tim Leibold's going to say, "So sorry, Mr. Messi," and he's going to step aside. So I think the game is. I think if Messi plays, it is going to be 3-1 Miami. If Messi does not play, I think it will be 2-2.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
I am going to go with, I will humor you. I will give you a with Messi and a without Messi.
Okay.
Without Messi, 3-2 Miami.
Okay.
After we are up 2-0.
Sure. Yeah.
So we go up 2-0. They win 3-2. That's what I'm going with.
Right.
If Messi plays, we go up 2-0, and then we lose 4-2.
Oh,
so that's what I'm going with. If Messi plays, you're right. He scores, and it just happens to be the 4th goal in their 3-goal comeback. So,
do you want to go double or nothing on your wager there? If it all happens exactly right, you get 2 points, but otherwise you get nothing.
No, not this early. We're still
tied.
Come on. Yeah, that's my prediction. I think we're gonna lose this anyway, just because Miami's got a pretty good attack.
Yeah.
Their defense isn't great, but their attack is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think it's going to be rough, and I think we're going to be real pissed off from this week, which could mean that we end up winning this 4-1 with a Messi goal. We end up winning 4-1.
It's possible.
If we get that angry team that showed up in Toronto, then who knows? But
yeah, who knows?
Cool. All right. Well, no point update because neither one of us got a point last week, which is becoming a all too familiar occasion because we seconded us. So.
Nice.
Anyway, that's what we're going with. Let's get these people out of here. We are under an hour as long as I can get this last part done in about 50 seconds. Anyway,
go.
Head over to Twitter, PTW_pod, and give us a like. That would be appreciated. Paint the Wall Podcast on Facebook. That's also our Gmail, paintthewallpodcast@gmail.com. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, first of all, you suck. What are you doing? Second of all, hit the @ PTW_pod and hit us up on YouTube. Give us a like and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it. Speaking of appreciating it, Logan, I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Steve.
You guys have a good week.
See you guys.